This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everyone. This is Ken Quigley from Keystroke, and I'm very excited to announce the start of our first in a series of 3 webinars on the new products that we acquired from Topline Results. So the first one, in our opinion, is really the crown jewel of the acquisition, and that's the Dash reporting program. So this was the one that we're most excited about, and will probably be the one we end up investing the most dev time in expanding its features and functionalities. I saw from the registration list, we have a lot of ACCs that are joining us today, ACT consultants, and I just want to kind of control some expectations. We've really only had the source code for a couple of weeks now, and what we've done in that time is we basically recompiled all 3 of the programs, made sure they were updated to support the latest versions, and recompiled them for our licensing. But we also had to implement, we've got some standard obfuscation practices with all of our development, so we had to go through that process. And anytime we do that, there's always a little bit of debugging. So we're still kind of going through that process, but the process of debugging and feature enhancement is ongoing. So you're going to see a lot of updates over the course of the next few weeks. So certainly look for that. Our website where we store all of our downloads is actforwork.com. And so again, act the number 4 work.com, and that's a generic website we want all of our customers and our reseller customers to be able to go to. And you're going to see a very, very friendly navigation list where you can find all the different program downloads. So look for updates on that. Feel free to trial them. All of these 3 products, Dash, which we're demoing today, Designer, which we're demoing this same time next week on Thursday, and then the week after that, Alerts. All of these will be continuously updated and available for download there, and all of them have a 2-week trial period. That's a little different than what Topline had done previously. They had a 30-day design or 30-day trial period. We've always worked with more of a 14-day trial period, just because we find that it's kind of like college exams. If you give people a month to study, most people don't start until the last week anyway. So we like to, when people download the program, keep their feet to the fire so they can get started on the program right away, find out if it's a good fit for them. Okay, so Lubs, can I get you to bring up our home screen?
Sure can.
Okay, so here, what I want to do is we are going to be recording this. So I'm just going to show you where, if you scroll down to the very bottom and you click on the Keystroke training videos right there, and scroll down a little bit and you click on the Keystroke product videos right there. And this is where you're going to find this recording tomorrow. And we get them up pretty quickly, so they're normally by the end of today, but we like to say that guaranteed that they'll be online and posted tomorrow. Okay, so look for that. If this is of interest to you as well, please stay tuned for next week's demo, and the week after that, Lubs will be doing all 3 of them. We call him Lubs, but Michael Cadlib is our support manager, and he's the one that will be doing the demo today. He was super excited about the acquisition of these products. Lubs has been a ACC for a long, long time, and he has had a super strong knowledge of these programs. He's actually been bugging us to acquire these for quite some time, and when we finally got aligned with Topline Results, it was a fantastically easy deal, and we're all really excited to move forward with these 3 products as part of our portfolio. So with that introduction, Lubs, I'm going to turn it back over to you and have you show us Keystroke Dash.
Just before you get started, Lubs, if you have any questions, there's a chat function there, so we'll be monitoring the chat. If appropriate, we'll interrupt Lubs. If not, we'll wait till the end to answer some of the questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys. And just to verify, you guys can all see, or Ken or Vic, you guys can see my ACT and Topline Dash, or it's Keystroke Dash.
Keystroke Dash. We'll have to get a presenter for next week.
Is what we see.
Okay, you guys can see it. Great. Okay, so as we get started here, this is when you click on the icon for Keystroke Dash, you'll see the Getting Started wizard. Now, for those of you who have used it before, you can always, in this lower right-hand corner, if you don't want to see it every time you get in there, you can click where it says Do Not Show Again, and then that screen will not pop up every time you go into dashboard view. But for those people who are new to the product, I would suggest leaving this on because this is a great little tool to just refresh your memory of what all the icons do in the program. And as you see, each of the icons has a little note about what it actually does. Okay. And then down here, it just sort of explains what the different icons within the panels and what they do and the terminology within there. So you're going to hear words like panel and grids and dashboards and things like that. Okay. So once again, for the newbies, I would keep this up for a while so that you can just sort of, learn on the go as you start to use the program. And then once you get the hang of it, you can always just, check that box and then it won't show up anymore once you get in here. Okay. Let's go ahead and hit OK there. And before I get into actually creating a dash, let me go over some of the settings to show you, to explain sort of where things are stored and located, okay? And that's going to be under our settings menu at the top here. Okay, so we have a couple options in here what to do. So one is the show the getting wizard. So let's say you checked that box by mistake and you wanted to bring it back for the next time you get in there. You can just recheck that. The next time you get into Act, that box that getting started wizard will pop back up for you, okay? That's one thing. Another thing, as far as the dashboards themselves, by default, they're going to go into the My Documents and then in a folder called Dashboard Saves. It gets created automatically whenever you install the program. I've modified this one just for demo purposes, and you can change that location to wherever you want. So if you are using a shared database over a network and you want everybody to have access to the dashboards on each of their computers as a shared type of thing, you'd probably want to put it on your network drive in a shared folder and then have everybody be able to share those out. If everybody would rather have individual dashboards and not share them, then you would put them locally to their hard drives. And then over here on to the right, what do you want your startup dash to be? It can either be the last one you had opened, or you can always go to a specifically named dashboard if you wanted to. So if every day maybe you're working in a specific dashboard, you can have it always go to that specific one each day so that you're ready to go every day when you go into the dashboard. Okay. So let's go ahead and show you how to create one here. So when you get a new wizard up here, there's a little wizard button here. Okay, and when you mouse over it, it shows you what it is, wizard. You click that, and it's just going to sort of explain what the panel wizard will do for you. Okay. You hit next. Then you're going to have the different types of tables or entities within Act that you can report on here. Okay, from activities to admin functions. And I'll just we'll actually create a couple here, but let me just sort of go through each one of these, what they actually do. So activities, you can actually show an Act calendar within the dashboard. So it actually shows you the calendar view, okay, in there. Activity query is going to show you more of a list type of view or KPI. If we go down to admin, there's going to be an option for synchronization. So you can actually see like when people have synchronized or when they haven't synchronized. If you do have remote database,s it'll show you a list of that. The update database states, we can skip over that. It's more for admin type people who are using this. The user is going to allow you to see like when people were last logged in, or how many days since their last login, things like that. Company is going to give you whenever it says like query, so like company query or contact query or opportunity query, basically means a list view of that information. So a list view of company information. Same thing here. So we have the contact query. Contact details will give you sort of a layout view of your data within the dashboard. Custom tables. If you have any custom tables within your database, they would be listed here. This is a demo database I have with a lot of custom tables, as you see, and they'll just be listed there. And then you choose the table you want to report on.
For those that are familiar with this previously was labeled solutions, and we've renamed it back custom tables.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Ken. Appreciate that. Right here we have group. So it's going to be a list of any group information. Legacy. So this is old, or not old information, but old queries that came about when it was Topline dashboard, I think probably in the first iteration. So you had the way the queries were done, probably I'm going to say 12 to 15 years ago. So if anybody who's used it that long ago and is familiar with some of these, they still have some of these old queries in here that you can utilize. We have our notes and histories list here, opportunity and product query, and then finally SQL queries, where you can just manually make a query up And right now it's using the SQL-/OLDB to create your list there. You can do that right there, and it'll create your list based upon whatever query you generate there. Okay. So for right now, we're going to create we'll start with a contact query. Let's say we want to have two lists. We want to have a list of our customers and a list of our prospects to be pulled up because we wanted to do either reports on that, merges to them, or any kind of list view that we want to do, any kind of list reports that we want to do with that. So we're going to click contact query. And now here is for lack of a better term, this is the advanced query, similar to what you would see in ACT if you ever did an advanced query, or if you created a dynamic group and edited the criteria there, very similar to that. So you can even drill down even further though. If you just wanted to see contacts, you can leave it there. But if you wanted to go and say, okay, show me contacts with only contacts that had activities, or only contacts with, and all these other ones are custom tables, so like gifts, insurance, investments, those are custom table stuff. So you might not see every one of these, obviously, if you don't have custom tables, but you're going to see histories and things like that. For this instance today, we're just going to stick to some of the general reporting, okay? So we're just going to do contacts themselves. But just know that you can actually drill down even further if you really wanted to. And we're going to say, okay, so now since we only did the contact table, that's going to be the only table we have an option for here. And we're going to do the ID status field. And then contains customer. And then you just hit the enter button to get it to accept, and we'll see it go down the line. And there we go. Now it's part of the query. Click OK. And now we choose what kind of graph do we want. Do we want what kind of a report do we want? Do we want a graph? Do we want a list or KPI? In the course of this webinar, we're going to show you all three of these, but for this purpose here, we're going to do a list. Once you do a list, it pops open the options you can choose from. So when you do a contact query, you can actually pull also company fields if you wanted to. So if that contact was linked to a company field, it would be able to pull company data from that company. And then you can also obviously choose contact fields. Now we already give you sort of some fields to start with, but if you wanted to add additional fields, maybe you wanted to add also so we have city, state. I don't think we have zip code in here yet. Or I'm sorry, postal, is it postal code? Let's see. Yeah, postal code. There we go, let's add that. And then you can move these fields up as needed. So maybe we wanted the email next to contact. We can drag that up. Okay. Currently, there is no way to add multiple fields at one time, but that is on our short feature or our short list for features, and we will have that in shortly, I believe. Correct, Ken? Correct me on that. I want to promise things that we're not going to deliver.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, that's on
okay.
our list.
Okay, I thought so. Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, so for right now, it's a single field at a time, and then you can move them up with the arrows over here to where you want it to move up. Okay, let's go ahead and hit next. And then congratulations, you've completed the process of creating a new panel. Click OK. There's that panel, and I can then adjust the columns accordingly by just either double clicking them or dragging them out. If I want to see grid lines in this list here, I go back to my little monitor icon here, and there's a little checkbox there to show grid lines, so I click that. Then that makes it a little bit easier to see the data. I can give this a title up here where it says contact query list. That's going to be the default title of the report, but to change that, I double click here, and I can call it whatever I want. I'm going to call it customers. So similar to any other list view in ACT, you can sort by any column simply by clicking on the column heading. As you see, you'll see a little triangle there. So ascending, if I click it again, it's going to be descending. And then each column will also have a filter button. So if I only wanted to see maybe just customers in a certain state, I can click on the little filter button, and it's going to show me all the available ones that are in that list currently. If I just wanted any of the ones in New York, I choose that. Or I could do a custom one and say equals New York or New Jersey or Pennsylvania if I want to do maybe 3 or 4 states. thing to remember is with these filters, they are sticky. So if I were to close Act right now, go back in tomorrow, that filter is still on. So I may go in here and think where's all my customers at? So you just have to make sure that you take those turn those filters off if you don't want them on all the time. And they're easy to see which ones are on because it's sort of like it's darkened. It's like a blue color. I'm not sure if you can see that it's blue there, but it'll be blue on your screen when you see it. And then if you turn it off by just clicking it and clicking all, you'll see that dark color goes away. Okay, so there's my customers list. Now I'm going to choose I want to make a prospects list as well. Now I don't want to have it as a separate button. Okay, I want to have it all within this, or separate dashboard, all within this same screen here. So to do that, I have two options to do that. I can do it to the side. There's a little plus sign to the right here, or I could do it underneath. There's a little plus sign underneath. I think the way the list view looks here, it probably would look better underneath. So I'm going to click the plus sign here, and it's going to add another panel down below. Now I can go through that same process of going through the wizard and adding the fields and everything like that. But to save time, what I can do is I can copy this format from up top down below and then just change the criteria. That's going to save a lot of time. So to do that, I'm going to hold down my control button on the top here as I click the title and just drag it down to this title where it says blank. Release my mouse and control button. Oops, that wrong. Hold on. Let's try again. There we go. I just held it down too long. Okay, there we go. Okay, and then I can change the title here. So I'm going to call this one prospects. Then I'm just going to change the criteria. So to change your criteria or your query, there's a little pencil icon here. It used to be a little magnifying glass, so it's now a pencil. And so instead of ID status contains customer, we're going to change that to prospect. So now we have customers up here, prospects down here. We have the number in the upper right-hand corner of what each of them shows you. So we have 49 customers and 90 prospects. And now, before I do anything else, what I probably want to do is save this because I want to make sure that any changes I make are saved. So I'm going to hit the save button here. And then it takes me directly to my dashboard that saves that dashboard saves folder that I have set in settings. And then I give it a name. Customers and prospects. Okay. Save it. And now you'll see it gets added down below here with the button. Okay. So each of these buttons are what Keystroke dashboard would consider to be a dashboard. Okay. When you go to each of these buttons down here. All right. So we're going to move forward here. And let me just click on a couple of these other ones that I have down here. So we're going to work on the KPI. So this is a list view for contacts. Let me show you how the KPIs work. So I've already created one here just to save some time for us. And what I did was I created two KPIs. One that shows you the number of contacts per ID status, and one that shows the number of contacts per state or province. Okay. So let me just show you how that was done. So in the query, it was a contact query, and I said ID status contains data. So I just want to make sure it had something in that field. And then in your display settings, instead of list, I chose KPI, simple KPI, and I wanted to do the KPI. And for those of you that are not aware, the KPI stands for Key Performance Index. Basically, it's shows you a total of what you're looking for. Okay. So in this case, I'm doing that on the ID status field, and I'm going to count the number of records per ID status. And that's it. And then it shows me that list there. And in the same token, I did the same thing for the state province. So my query was state contains data. And my display information was KPI field is state and then count. So you can realistically do that for any field you want it to. Okay, whether this is a contact query, but if I'm in the opportunities, or if I'm in histories, or I'm in companies, I can do any of those KPIs on any of those fields that you want. Okay. if you make any changes to any of the queries or any of your settings as you're moving through these dashboards, always make sure you save this. Because if I were to close ACT right now and I didn't hit save, any of my changes would not be saved. Now, I didn't make any changes here necessarily to the settings or to the query, but if I had, you want to make sure that you do save those before exiting out of the dashboard or exiting out of ACT. Otherwise, those settings, they don't automatically save. Okay. All right, so that's contact KPIs. Let's move over to, we already did the contact list. Let me show you a company list. And this is very similar to the contact list. So I won't spend much time on here, but the only difference is when I created this, I chose companies. Okay. And we didn't query on it here. What I did differently here was, just to show you the difference, is instead of making it part of the query here, in the ID status here, what I did was I chose the filter button as I showed you earlier, and I made it customer here. And then for prospects, I did the same thing down there. So you can do it, just want to show you that you can do it two different ways. You can have the query that's up here, or you can do the filter once it's in the actual process itself. There's no really right or wrong way. It depends on how you want to do that. Obviously, with the filter, that can be easily changed. Where the query, you have to go into the pencil to change that. So just think about that as you're building the different queries for your clients or for yourself, as far as how you want to handle that with the criteria that you want to look up for that. Okay, let's do another one. We're going to do, let's go to notes. Okay. I'm not even sure. I don't think I have any notes in this database. So let's see here. Notes. Contacts. No, I don't even have any notes in here. So let's just go back here. I'll walk you through how we would create that. We're not going to see any data, but just to show you, because I know a lot of people do utilize notes in a big way. So when you're in the panel wizard here, you're going to click Note Query. You'll choose the notes of what you want it to be linked to. So if you just want to see opportunity notes, you would choose that, or maybe you want contact notes or company notes. You would choose whichever entity you want it to be linked to. You can then filter that query even further. Maybe you only want quotes for a certain record manager or over a certain date period. So you can, let's say, for example, you only want notes within the last month. So you can do notes created on. And then here's a little unique thing. When you do a date field, and this doesn't just pertain to notes itself, but any date field. So whether it's the birthday in the contact table, or you have a custom table field like renewal date or anything like that, when you choose equals for the operator, the value, you're going to get a nice little list here of options you can choose from. So the last so many days here, the next so many days, last year, last month, last week, next month, next week, next year, this year, today, tomorrow, or yesterday. Okay, so you have a lot of options there. And then you also have different operators as well. So you can do hour equals, minute equals, month equals, newer than so many days, older than so many days, on or after a date, on or before a date, within so many days, or within the next so many days, or the year equals a specific year. So with that, any kind of date fields you have a lot of options here to filter and criteria things out to get to the data you really want to get to. Okay, let's move over to histories where I actually have some data in here. Okay. So what I did was I created 3 different history items here. I created a list view, a graph, and a KPI for the last 180 days. Okay, so this is what the end result looks like. So let me show you sort of how I got there. So we're going to click the new dashboard, go to the wizard. We choose history from notes history. We choose history linked to contacts. And I'm going to put my query in here for the last 80 days. So it's going to be history, create date, within the last, how many days? 180. And the first one I did was a list. And so I have the history items there, and then I want to add maybe like the company name and the contact name. then maybe the email. So basically, you have access to all the contact fields here that you can put in there, and then any additional history fields that you want. So I already have the start date, the history type, regarding, record manager. I could add the end time, duration, details, all that stuff if I wanted to. I'm just going to leave it at this. Hit next. Hit OK. And then it'll pull up. And one thing I will caution people on, the history list, I only did the last 180 days here, and this is a relatively small database for demo purposes. But if you're using this on your own database or a client's database, and you have thousands of histories or millions, this specific one right here might take a while to pull up. And in the lower left-hand corner, so this will appear blank basically as the report's generating, but in the lower left-hand corner, it'll say retrieving ACT data. Just let that run until it sort of finishes. It's not frozen. It's just going to take a while to do some reports if you have a lot in there.
Now, Lub, some of the changes that we're contemplating right now, where we're writing directly to SQL, will that improve some of the response time?
I believe so, from what I've told. Yes, when we go to SQL, yes, that'll make it a little quicker.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So here's the history query. So now what I'm going to do is, so I have the list. I'm going to create a graph and a KPI. So I'm going to hit the plus sign down below. Once again, as I mentioned before, I'm not going to go through the whole process of creating a new one. I'm just going to copy this one from the top down here. And then make my change with the display. So instead of a list, this one's going to be a graph. And I'm going to group by the record manager. So I'm going to, and then the category is going to be type. I'm going to count them. Click OK, or click close. And so now each of the users, I'm going to have a graph for each of the users, and then it's going to show me each of what they've done over here. Okay, appointment completed, call attempted, call completed, email sent, or meeting held. And you can change where this stuff is located. So if I go back into my display, maybe I want that at the bottom instead of the right, I can click bottom. And if I want my the columns to be different colors, there's a color palette right here, and I can change that. Okay, so it's basically starting from the left to right is going to be the colors of those types. So I can change, just click on one. Let's say I want the green one to be pink instead. Okay, then that one's going to be pink. Okay. If I wanted to have like a target for them to hit, I can set a target here. 10. That's going to put a little line across, letting me know, and then I can easily see who's reached their target. And then once again, I can change the name of the title of that. I'm just going to call this one graph. Okay, so these are basically the criteria for both these are identically the same. It's just showing me a list view versus a KPI view. I'm sorry, versus a graph view. Next, we're going to create a KPI. So I'm going to click the plus sign again. I'm going to copy it down. Change my display from graph to KPI. And here I'm going to do, instead of a simple one, I'm going to do what's called a complex KPI. So it's going to allow me to do two fields. So the left column is going to be the record manager or the user. The top column is going to be the history type. It's going to give me a count of those. So here we go. We have the users, and then we have each of their different history types that they've done. And then the total for each of those as well.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites. I can tell you we have a lot of the salespeople and the admin team constantly making outbound calls, and I keep this on my dashboard, and I'm able to see the call counts of everyone. And just the other day, we were able to determine that some of the callers were having a much higher connection rate, and we were able to determine that that person was calling in the afternoons more than the mornings. So we kind of shifted a lot of our call times to the afternoon and got a much better connection rate. But these are absolutely pivotal metrics that are nice to constantly refresh throughout the day.
Thanks, Ken. Okay. And then once again, I can change the title if need be. And then once I have my report as I want it, save it, give it a name. There you go. And so right here, I basically created 3 reports in a matter of 5 minutes. Okay. Now, when you first get started, it might take a little longer to do that, but once you have once you have the process down, you're gonna be able to create all these kind of reports very quickly and on the fly for yourself and or your clients, and then easily just copy and paste things to create different looking reports depending on how they want them to display. Okay. And then, if you want to present this somehow, you can either, export it to, not export, but print it to Excel, print it to PDF, or if you just use a snipping tool, you can even snip it and then put it in a PowerPoint or a Word document or wherever you need to snip it to. But to print it out, you go to your print button up here, print menu. You can give the report a title up top here. You choose, when you have a dashboard that has multiple items or multiple panels, grids, like this one, you can choose which one you want to have printed out. So if I just want the graph and KPI, I could choose those two, or if I want everything, I would choose everything. And then you choose where you want the output to be. The printer, go right to your printer. You can print it to Excel, or you can print it to a PDF and have it open automatically. Okay. Now, as far as printing to Excel, basically it's going to print the list view is what it's going to print. Okay, whatever your last list view is in there. The PDF will print like 1 page, or depends on how much data is on there, multiple pages per report, and it'll just be continuous feed there. Okay, and then your graph pages, you can make them certain sizes as far as how big you want them to show up on the page. Your list options, do you want it to be a line or shaded or none when you're using the list? And then do you want it portrait or landscape? And then what kind of footer text do you want at the bottom there? Okay, so that'll print out based upon your preferences when you go to print that particular report out. And Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're adding an email option as well.
We are, yes. We have to update the code a little bit to support that. Some of the libraries didn't. But yeah, that was actually one of the things I was hoping to get added before this demo, but it's going to be in the next week or so.
Great. So just so we know where to look for, will it be part of the print thing here, or will it be a separate menu off top here once it's added? Do you know?
I'm hoping that it will be, we'll either add it beside the print, or there'll be some kind of output button that will allow you to pivot between print and email.
Gotcha. And that'll then go to your default email program. More than likely, mostly people you hear probably use Outlook. They'll just go to Outlook and then send those files that way. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks. Okay. So that's a history report. Next thing I want to show you is opportunities. This is a really good report because ACT itself really doesn't, they don't have that many good opportunity reports. They've introduced the widgets, but oftentimes we're battling with the API to get that corrected, right? So let's show you how we can sort of report on opportunities here. So I have an opportunity dashboard I've created, and this is real nice. If you do go to another dashboard, it will prompt you if you want to save any of your changes you made. So more than likely, typically you're going to say yes, unless the changes you made don't matter. Okay, so this one got a little more extensive here. I added a lot more things. So I have a list view, a graph, and then 4 different KPIs. So my first list here is estimated close date within the next 30 days. So if we go into show you that query, actually, I guess I didn't make the query yet. So let's do the query, opportunity, estimated close date, the next 30. There we go. Okay, that one already has it. Yep. Okay. So there's the list view for that. Below there we have the graph, and it's once again per user. It's going to show you the total amount that each person has. So if we go into there, we're just grouping by the record manager, and then the x-axis is a sum of the total. Now, since it's an estimated, we may want to change that to weighted total instead, since it's a forecast. So we can do that. Change it to weighted. Close. Okay. And then down here, what we have is we have different KPIs. So these two KPIs here are based upon estimated close date the next 30 days. So this first one here is showing you the number of opportunities each person has. So if I go into the KPI here, the KPI field will be record manager, and then down here it's going to be counts. I'm just counting the number of opportunities each person has within the next 30 that are supposed to be closing within the next 30 days. For this one here, once again, the KPI field is going to be record manager. However, this time instead of counting the records, I'm going to sum, and I'm summing on the weighted total. Okay, and so that's basically giving me the weighted total of each of these users' opportunities over the next 30 days. And then these last two are going to I'm showing these are closed opportunities. So if I go into here, opportunity status equals close one. Okay. And here's a little tip. If you do not see the status as part of your dropdown, let us know and we can get you a little file that fixes that. Within ACT, there's a little, I don't want to call it a bug or anything, but just a little flaw where the status field doesn't show in reporting views sometimes, and you have to run a batch file to correct that. Once again, let us know if you don't see that, and we can send it over to you to run it. We can even run it for you. It's a real quick batch file. It takes literally less than 2 minutes to do the whole process. And then you're able to see the status field in that dropdown to report on it. So this one, once again, this is status closed. Close one, I should say, not close lost. And it's just giving me a count of one, and I can sort either way again on that. And then over on this side over here, this one's giving me the KPI of the one with the weighted totals of some other weighted totals here. Okay.
So you have 6 charts going on at once right now.
Right. Yeah. Six. Basically 6 reports. And they're all, the nice thing with these is they're all interactive. So if Ken said, hey, give me a report on the next 30 days, but he's like, you know what? Let's change it to 60 instead. So I can just easily, instead of having to go in, edit the report or edit my lookup or whatever, I click the pencil, I change this to 60, hit OK, and there's my new report. Okay. Or if I wanted to add additional fields, I go to my display. Maybe we're missing the phone number from this display. Add the phone, put it where I need to put it. And now it's there. And then I can export that to Excel, print it out, whatever I need to do here. Oh, speaking of the export to Excel, so I showed you how to do the print option. If you wanted to just do like a quick export, there's this export to Excel button that's going to show up in any list view that you see. You click that. It allows you to save it. You can rename it if you want. Basically, just takes the title. Then it exports it to Excel for you. Bring it over. So here's that report that's been exported. And then you do whatever you want. Now it's in Excel. You can do pivot tables, whatever you need to do once it's in Excel. Okay. One other thing you can do in list views is you can group by certain things. So if I want to group by the record manager up here in this list view, this little the 3 green buttons with the lines, that allows you to group. So I'm going to click that button, and then I drag the header up here to the column. So similar to how custom tables works, when you group by custom table items, I'm going to group by the record manager and drag that field here. And now it's giving me a list or number for each of these, almost similar to a KPI here. The only difference here is I can just sort of expand this out and then see the list view for each of these users.
Yeah, where this gets really valuable is if you're creating an opportunity report by record manager and you want to see details for each. You want to see, which ones are at different stages, the sum totals of each. This bar chart is great, but this allows you to have a really detailed top-level view, and breaking it into the record manager is exactly how sales managers need to see it.
Absolutely. Another thing, any field that are numbers, decimals, or currency, you're going to have this little epsilon sign at the top here next to the filter, and it gives you an option to summarize on those fields. So if I want to click that here for the total, I can see the average, and I can see, count, maximum, minimum, or sum. And then at the bottom, And if I have it grouped by the recommended, it's going to show me each one. So here's totals for Joe Russo. Here's his average sale, and then here's the total sales. And then scroll down to Michael Cadlub, same thing there. And then at the very bottom, it gives me the grand total for everybody. Okay, so very, very powerful stuff. Days open, if I want to see the average days open that an account is. I'll give you that number. Okay, so stuff that you can't do in regular Act reports without some kind of custom programming. All very simple, all very quick to do, right there, very quickly. Okay. One other thing here with the KPIs, and even the graphs too. If I were to click on anywhere here, so if I wanted to get like I want to see Steve Rogers, his KPI, the ones he won, he closed one. I double click here on his name, and then it pulls up the list view down below here of those closed one totals. Okay, so it pulls it up right in that same window there.
Yeah, that's a very, very unique element of Dash, because a lot of the report generators, they produce reports. They're static documents and undrillable. Everything, all the reports within Dash are drillable because you're actually in the Act framework. You're directly connected to the data.
And same thing with graph here. So if I go to the graph for Joe Russo, click on that. When you do a graph, it sort of pops it out versus the KPI, which does it below. The graph will just pop it out here. And then you can, if you wanted to add the different columns here to that pop out, you can as well. That's separate from the other list view. Okay. That was pretty much what we set to cover today with the Dash. So Ken or Vic, if you, can you look over the questions and let's sort of go over those?
Well, we've covered the questions. If you can just kind of give me the screen.
Yeah.
Make me the presenter.
Do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think I have. Share. Excellent. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so you've got the Act screen. So I just wanted to, give you guys a quick view of how I use this program. And we got a question by Wendy, and I love it because I got to look smarter than I am, because I answered her question very confidently because Lubs told me how to do it yesterday. So what this is a bunch of KPIs that Lubs and I and some of the other department heads talked about. So here is the number of service hours, and here's the number of service tickets. All of these are pulling from custom tables. And I wanted to just show how quickly and easy this is, how you can generate this. I'm going to click on the little pencil. Okay. And let's say that I want to see, see how it's incident date within last. Let's say I want to have a floating account of what is aggregating over the course of the month. So I asked Lubs, because I looked at it like opportunities, show me this month. That's what I care about. And I said that wasn't available. And Wendy did the same thing, looking for this. Sorry to embarrass you, Wendy, but I'm copying to the same thing. And I said, just go to equals, and then you just select this month. Okay, and you've got it, and then click on OK. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you a running count of all of the service hours by record manager. So now I can quickly see here, Michael so far has 53 hours of log time. Greg Davis has 52. So I don't need for him to provide me those kinds of reports, so I can see exactly the level of service activity. Same thing with here. I can say again, equals to, and this time I'm going to say, let's say this month. I'll just say this month again. No, let's say this week. Okay, for a little bit more precise view. And then I've got the results from this week. And here was what we talked about in, I can get a view, more of a complex KPI, where I've got the record managers here, and then I've got different stages: commitment to buy, initial communication, negotiation, so on and so forth. And this is a snapshot of this month. So having these here in front of me all the time, I was mentioning during the presentation that I like to have the KPIs on all the different sales staff and the admin staff on the outbound calls. And here's what I've got. You can see call completed, left message, and that really gives me, you know, an instant visibility on their activity. Okay, now that was just one to kind of show you how I mean, Lubs is much better at it than I am. I've basically been using this program, you know, in little bits, but this is how I was able to compile just over the last week of playing with the program. So instead of Lubs kind of giving you an expert view, so everyone kind of think, oh, if I was as good as Lubs, I can build this. I built all of these in the last week very, very quickly without any special reporting expertise. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to bring up the website here. Hold on. Just kind of want to go through some of the things that have happened recently and some of the reference materials that we have online for the people that are visiting this. Okay, so the first thing is we want to show you, here's the blog, here's where a lot of our updates are. So I'm just going to scroll down. Okay, here's the announcement of us acquiring all the Topline products. This was on March 24th. So this is really, really quite recent. So you can reference that, kind of get you know, a sense and learn a little bit about the support policies that we've got associated with this. Because one of the things that, you know, as of April 1st, the Topline activation server was taken offline permanently. And what that meant is that anyone that had existing installed Topline products, Dash Designer, or alerts, they can continue to use them uninterrupted, okay? However, the people that needed to reinstall them, because there was no activation server, all they would do is be able to go through the trial period, and then it would expire and the program would time bomb. So what we had to do is, you know, it gave us a very short time period, like 2 weeks, to recompile all the programs. And because we don't have the ability to support even reinstalling some of the old Topline programs, we had to come to the decision that the only versions that we can support are the ones that we recompiled and we that we can license. Okay, so we just wanted to let people know that if coming from old versions and they have to reinstall, they'll have to purchase. Now, no one likes to buy anything twice. I get it, and all these products were perpetual, and I want to show you what we've done here. We've just implemented this today. The past Topline customers now have a way to redeem their old licenses, okay? And this is what's going to happen. I'm going to show you where on the website you can see it, okay? But basically, you select here, you put in your license key, and then you click on validate, and it will tell you, oh, okay, I recognize the product, here is the license key, here's the number of seats, and here is your 30% discount. And then you click on this to check it out. Now here's a bit of good news and a bit of bad news. If, let's say that you previously had need of only one license and now you have 5, okay, you need 5, then even though you only had purchased one eligible upgrade license, you can purchase this and now upgrade 5. So you're getting 30% on like 5 or more or whatever, okay? So you're gonna get upgrade eligibility and far more licenses than you ever previously purchased. However, the flip side of that is that if you only need one, like let's say you got to replace one computer and you've got like 20 installs, okay, and you use this license to purchase that one license at a discount, you won't be able to use that upgrade key again, okay, because there was just too many cases where we found that there were Uber keys out there that had like hundreds of licenses to them, and we couldn't run the risk that people can just use them indefinitely over and over and over again. So we had to kind of do a one and out. So we gave people the option to upgrade beyond totals that they would otherwise be entitled to, but we had to limit it to one redemption per key, okay? So that is news on that, and I'll show you where you can find that because we've just posted it today and we've made it pretty easy to find. Scroll down, upgrade your Topline products here, boom. Okay, this is where you select the product, boom, boom, put in your license key, and away you go. Okay, just like I showed you. Okay, now one other quick things. Go back to the blog. We talked a little bit, and Lubs was kept referencing what we're going to be doing with the products and what our roadmaps are. I'm not going to read this to anyone, so I just want to click on blog and say here's the roadmap for the Topline products. And I want to give people kind of the chance to kind of learn what we plan to do with each of these products. Okay, we're going to share a little bit as each of the demos. So one of the more exciting things, since we're talking about Dash today, we obviously have a number of things that are developing over the course of this year. We know in the fall that SwiftPage is going to be releasing a 64-bit version of ACT. So it's obviously our intent to build one, update Dash to support that, because the current one is locked down to 32-bit. So we're going to expand that, recompile it so it supports the 64-bit version in the fall. And the second thing is, currently, as Lub showed you, it's working right within ACT. It's accessing only local data. Okay, and its connection method is what's called the SDK, the Software Development Kit, and that's how most of the reporting, if not all the reporting programs, are connecting to the data, is through the SDK. Well, we have more API programs than any other development team, and what we're going to be looking to do is having a standalone reporting program like Dash, where you install it. You don't even have to have ACT installed, and what you'll do is configure in the settings the API connection. So now you're going from a local SDK connection to a remote API connection that can work with hosted databases, that can work with SaaS databases, and you'll be able to really get powerful reporting on data that is even stored remotely or in SaaS hosting servers. Okay, so we're really excited about that. And then one of the other things that we're going to be doing with this is actually introducing a whole new tier, because currently there is personal, and I'll get to this in a bit. There's personal, there's manager, and there's ultimate. Okay, so there's a personal, and then there's a manager, and we're going to introduce ultimate, which is actually going to have a report delivery feature. Right now, you've got to use our program called Alerts to deliver reports from Dash. We're going to actually have that feature built into Ultimate. Okay, so just to quickly recap, what do all these programs cost? So a Dash, the Dash Personal Edition, and just to kind of define what that is, that's for people that are single users, okay, or they really only want to report on their own data. So Dash Personal Edition allows you to do all the things that Lubs was showing you, generate all the reports, but really for the My Record only. Okay, so if you want the history reports, the KPIs, all of that is available with the personal edition at the fantastic price of $79. So think about all those tools that you can get operating right from within ACT for only $79. Okay, and I want to just remind everyone that all of these products are licensed based on activation. They're not licensed based on users. So basically, if you're going to install it on your home computer and your work laptop, then you'll need 2 licenses. Okay, so, but for most people, especially the pro users that really only have 1 install and they're only 1 user, this is a perfect solution, $79. Okay, now the manager edition, which is what we've demonstrated today, is $149, and that allows you to report on all of your users. Okay, and provides lots of additional functionality. So clearly, anything based on record managers is going to be far more valuable in the manager edition, and it only costs a little less than double the price of the normal one. So just think about what's appropriate for your needs. Obviously, teams of 2 or 3 or more, the manager is going to be the most appropriate. Okay, and that's what I wanted to mention today. So we've covered the roadmap, we've covered what our upgrade policy is, we've covered what our support policy is, and we've covered the pricing. And I think that we've covered most of what we wanted to cover today. I'm looking at the questions. I don't see. Okay, so Wendy's asked, to be clear, set filter to apply to all components on the dashboard at once. I'm guessing that's okay.
Read the question right above that one.
Okay, so each graph component has separate filters, I guess. Is there a way to set filters on the entire dashboard, so like all of them at once? I don't think there is. Is there, Lubs?
No, because as you know, or
you can access different tables, right?
You can, right. You can have the way I did today. I had all history tables on one, but I could actually have a history table, opportunity table, contact table. All those tables I did, I could have them all on one dashboard. So you can't have it all be one. That's why that copy feature is really nice, where you just copy it from one to another.
Yep. And Lanny Brown's asked an excellent question. So I know one of Lanny's customers was looking to add some Topline designer licenses, literally as the acquisition was taking place, and they wanted to know, can he mix Keystroke designer licenses with Topline designer licenses. We've had a lot of people purchase licenses for that scenario, and we've had no one come back and say that it wasn't working. So, you know, as you might guess, it's a little difficult for us to test a regression test every single scenario, but we have had a lot of people, and actually it's been really, really good sellers since the acquisition. We've had a lot of people buy and introduce them into mixed environments, and no one has come back with any complaints or concerns. So I'm going to take that as positive. And I think that is it. Did I miss anyone, Vic?
No, everything's answered. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So Lubs, was there anything else you wanted to add, or should we just wrap up?
No, that was all I had on my side.
Excellent. Okay, so that's it, guys. We're going to have, as I said at the outset, we're going to have the same webinar, same bat time, same bat place next week, covering designer. We hope to have some changes implemented then as well. But keep looking back for updates. We've built in an updater into the programs as well. But we're really excited about some of the changes and the direction that we're going. This is clearly, Dash was the product we were most excited about. But you know, what we were really gratified by is that we had a lot of positive feedback when word got out that we had taken over these products, because people really wanted to see what we can do with them. So obviously we're hoping to live up to those expectations, and we look forward to getting everyone's feedback. Okay, so with that, I will let everyone return to their day. Thank you very much for your time.